Hello, in this video we're going to take our first look at verbs in Pali. Let's recap with some of the sentences that we've seen before in this series of videos. Naro naring pasati. The man sees the woman. Samano darakang puchati. The monk questions the boy. Darako siso hoti. The boy is a student. Notice in all three sentences that the verb, which describes the action, ends in ti. Pasati, puchati, and hoti. From this you might get the impression that all verbs in Pali end in the same letters, ti. But of course that would be too easy. So in this video we're going to start looking at how the endings of verbs change. Also, whilst we're looking at these sentences, notice that the subject in each sentence, the man, the monk, and the boy, are all singular. What this means is that there's only one of each of them. We're not talking about men or monks or boys. This would be plural. This video just deals with the singular. They are also in what is called the third person. So now we're going to have a look at what this idea means. The idea of person can perhaps be best explained by looking at English pronouns again. For instance, when the speaker is talking about themselves, they use the first person pronoun, which is I. So when I'm referring to myself, I say, I see, I question, I am. The idea of person is really just one of perspective. So the first person is just the closest thing to me. And if we move away from the self, there's the person to whom I'm speaking. That's you. And you is the second person pronoun. You see, you question, you are. In the circle of my existence, you are the next person out from me. And so this brings us to the third person. The third person refers to somebody else outside of you and me. And now it gets a little bit more complicated because gender comes into it. So if we're referring to a male, we say, he sees, he questions, he is. Or to a female, she sees, she questions, and she is. And then we have the generic, it sees, it questions, it is. An important point to note about the third person is that anything which isn't either I or you is actually in the third person. So names of people or places or things, they're all in the third person. So in the three sentences that we've been looking at, the subject of the verbs, the man, the monk, and the boy, are all in the third person. And that's because they refer to neither I nor you. And another important thing to notice is that when we switch between the first, the second, and the third person, the verbs in English change very slightly. So we have I see, you see, but he sees. And more noticeably, I am, you are, and he is. Now this changing of verb form with the person of the subject is called subject-verb agreement, or sometimes concord. And this is very important in Pali. So let's look at how verbs in Pali switch between first, second and third person. Ahang pasami, I see. Tvang pasasi, you see. So pasati, he sees. Notice how the ending of the verb alters from me, see, and ti to match I, you, and he. Here's a different verb. Ahang puchami, I question. Tvang puchasi, you question. So puchati, he questions. Notice how the endings are the same as the last verb we saw. Me, see, and ti, matching I, you, and he. Me indicates first person, C second person, and T is third person. And this is very important in Pali because the verb ending always matches the subject in person. So when the subject is in first person and singular, the verb will always end me. If the subject is second person, the verb will always end C. And if the subject is in third person and singular, the subject will always end T. It's important to stress here that we're only talking about singular, when the subject is only a singular person or thing. And also these verb endings only relate to the present tense when we're talking about what's happening here and now. As you might imagine, there's a different set of endings for the plural, and we'll look at them in the next video.